Hello, listeners. We are Vegans of Bozeman, and you're listening to KGVM Bozeman. We are a community group committed to environmentalism, human health, and redefining our relationship with other animals. We hope through this podcast to inspire you to live vegan for these same reasons.
Yes, welcome. I'm Sarah.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Lucy.
And unfortunately, we are missing Lenny today. We miss you, Lenny. He is preparing for finals, and we're rooting for you, Lenny. We know you're going to do great.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. He'll do awesome. He's our fact checker. Hey, we love the Bozeman Farmers Market, and one of our favorite stops at the Bozeman Farmers Market is the Fauxmages booth run by Schaefer, Chef Peg. So we were able to get an interview with Peg, so here it is.
We are excited to have our first interview today. We're welcoming Peg Schaefer, Chef Peg, founder, owner, and operator of Fauxmages cheese, to our table. Welcome, Peg.
Thanks, Sarah. It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much. We, believe it or not, we just went and saw her at the farmer's market this morning and said, hey, remember we talked about interviewing you sometime, and would today work? And she's like, yeah.
She's totally a sport. And welcome.
I'll be right over. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her food is amazing. We're like indulging in her food and talking to her. So what a great time.
It's a win-win.
It is a win-win.
Yes. So, Peg, we would love to start with just finding out your vegan journey. Like, what is your history with becoming a vegan?
Well, I've been a vegan for somewhere around 10 years-ish. My story is kind of convoluted in that it was my mom that actually brought me to vegan living. And it was because she was dealing with diabetes, and her diabetes had leveled up, and they were going to ask her to do insulin injections. And she said, nope, I'd rather die. And I said, well, that's a little extreme, Mom. Can we maybe do some research and do a little search around that? And so I did, and found a book by Dr. Neil Barnard called Reversing Diabetes. Yeah. And that was pivotal for me. And that kind of began this whole journey many years ago. And so we did, and so I told her about it. And of course, he's a Fargo boy. And I was born in North Dakota, and my parents have their roots in North Dakota. Nice. So she said, well, if he's a Fargo boy, he must be good. So she said, yep, let's do it. So we went plant-based back then, and found that within 2 weeks, her A1Cs, which is the measure of, insulin in her blood, had normalized. 2 weeks. Wow. And this is an 81-year-old woman who was fairly sedentary. So the power of plants is definitive.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, because there's that documentary out there called What the Health, and they kind of do the same thing. They get people to go through these trials, give up, meat and cholesterol, and literally 2 weeks is kind of the rule
there's
of thumb.
There's a huge shift in the physiology in the human body when you take out the things that are causing inflation.
Was it a Whole Foods plant-based diet?
It was Whole Foods plant-based diet.
Wow.
Keep hearing about that.
Yeah, and that's a really, Lucy, that's a really key piece there that you just said, the fact that it's whole foods, because we can be vegans or plant-basers or whatever you want to call it and still be junk food junkies,
right? Because
there's a plethora of prepared plant-based food out there that is not so very healthy,
right? Right.
But if you're consuming whole foods that are if you can, locally sourced, organically grown,
right.
You're talking leveling up your health just so dramatically. At least that's what my studies are showing. I've since gone back to school, and I'm getting my master's in holistic nutrition.
Oh, no kidding. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's just say, I don't know if we said, you're a chef. You're a chef by trade.
I am an executive chef by trade, 43 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel privileged just to have you here. That's amazing.
Oh, thanks.
And your product, you have an amazing product that you've created. It's called Fauxmages.
It is.
And what is that? What's the play on words there? It's kind of...
So the play on words is, Lucy could probably speak to it better than I can. Fromage is the French term for cheese. And so I was trying to, figure out a way to to riff on that, and really fromage doesn't necessarily mean faux cheese, but it means, in my world, it means faux cheese.
Nice.
So it means made from cashews in my world, except for now I'm working on a new line. Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah.
I'm working on a line with sunflower seeds.
Oh, by the way,
You heard it here first.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come to Vegans of Bozeman
Yeah.
for updates.
But you're
on
you
like
make
You
Schaefer's
guys are
business.
cutting edge here. You're cutting edge.
you make this amazing Parmesan stuff that you put
That's
on.
sunflower seeds.
That's
yeah.
sunflower seeds, exactly.
Exactly.
So, and it's amazing.
Yep.
We use it all the time. We
Have
run.
you put it on popcorn yet?
Yeah, I tried it right after you told me. I put it on popcorn. We put
Yeah,
it on
buddy.
salads. We put it on everything. We make lines and we snort it. I'm kidding. I'm teasing. But
That's
it's-
good.
But it's
That might burn a little bit.
it's amazing stuff. It is
not
amazing
It
stuff.
is really good
We
stuff.
run out of it.
You know, and it's such an easy product. I think there's 3 ingredients in it.
Wow, that's
you know,
crazy.
sunflower seeds, nooch. Oh, 4 ingredients. Onion and salt.
Wow, it's amazing.
Super simple.
If you're listening, it's your Parmesan
Sprinkle.
Yeah, go to the Bozeman Farmers Market. It's where you can find Peg most. That's where I
Most
found
weekends.
her. Yeah, and
I'd like to. Oh, sorry. I'd like to know a little bit more about how. So when your mom transitioned to this diet, how was your reaction? How did you live through it? What was your experience?
You know, I will be really honest and say that, you know, I was using a lot of prepared faux meat products because my mom was pretty diehard meat eater, and so she really needed to have that substitute. You know, so I developed back then. This was when there was really only Boca available. I developed a burger patty that she really loved.
wow,
And she would eat that several times a week
wow. What was it made
with
from?
salad. I used lentils and TVP.
Wow,
Yeah. And now I would never use TVP if you paid me, but
right. But
you know,
back then,
But back then there wasn't the awareness, I don't think, and there wasn't the scope of product that's available to us now
Right.
to work from. You know, it was really kind of no man's land, or the Wild West in Los Angeles, and
Right.
you know,
right.
What year was this?
Oh golly, let's see. She was 81, and she passed when she was 89. So it's been I've been plant-based longer than that then. So it's almost 15 years,
Wow.
I guess. Yeah.
And what is TVP? I'm not familiar.
Texturized vegetable protein.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
you.
And you can get that. Usually it comes dry. You can get it in bulk sections, and if you hydrate it and you mix it with other things, you can create a meat-like substitute product.
Gotcha.
Does it when you hydrate it, does it kind of have a look and feel of like a ground beef?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And texturally too.
Texturally, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
But you know, I now I'm all about the local lentils, timeless lentils, and mixing those with walnuts. That's what I use for my kids at Headwaters Academy where I cook.
Okay.
For my I have like 6 or 8 vegetarians there.
Oh wow.
And some of them have, you know, gluten-free and dairy-free intolerances. So it's just easier for me to just do everything vegan.
Well, the thing is,
And they don't mind it.
Right, and the lentils,
Awesome.
the probiotics in your gut really love lentils.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's
mean-
tons of prebiotic on them.
Yeah.
Oh, the kids at Headwaters Academy are getting
They get some pretty
some
good
vegan
food.
vegetarian. That's amazing.
Yeah, they get some pretty good food. I do all of their desserts are always gluten-free and dairy-free
Wow.
That's awesome.
because there's just too many kids that have sensitivities.
Right.
And, you know, of course, that's another whole rabbit hole if you ever want to discuss
Well, I was just
it on
gonna.
a
I
subsequent.
thought of asking you, but yeah.
Well, you know, the sensitivity thing, to my research, is especially with gluten, is more about the glyphosate that we've treated crops with than the actual gluten. Many celiacs are probably rolling over and screaming bloody murder, but I'm here to tell you that I think that the uptick back in the early 80s, late 70s that we saw when industrial farming really started to take off, you
Right.
know. And glyphosate usage was just everywhere.
Right.
And I think organic farmers really struggle with that too because of overspray.
Right.
And so you can say, well, I'm an organic farmer and be certified, but you know, if you're alongside an industrial farmer, then
But see, that's the thing too, is the runoff. Like that stuff, as far as I
Exactly.
understand, it's not regulated.
no, it's not.
And so that stuff's just running off into the rivers and who knows what it's doing. But
I would just love to just kind of go back. I think your story with your mom and her, you know, trying to help her with her diabetes.
Yep.
I think that's such a compelling story that I think could give a lot of people hope. That,
Sure.
because doctors,
Were amazed.
Well, that's
They didn't
yeah.
know what they, you know, we came back and they were, you know, it also remediated her. She had systemic psoriatic arthritis. And so her feet would peel, literally peel, and her hands, the palms of her hands would peel. And it was terribly painful. And I mean, I would have to treat her feet and her hands every day. And but it remediated that as well.
Wow.
So when you think about the power of plants on the inflammatory processes in our body, you really you can't deny that.
right. Well, and I think that's kind of what I wanted to get to too, is that we know people who tell us they're allergic to greens, like plants, and it seems kind of crazy to us. And I think it's because of the things we're talking about. It's the chemicals.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is when people are trying to figure out their allergies, for some reason there's this gluten thing where they remove wheat, but they don't necessarily remove dairy, or they don't remove eggs. They don't remove the plant proteins, and then they say that they're allergic to wheat. Well, what if it's a food combination thing?
That's
Where
entirely possible.
Yeah, where the wheat is reacting to
Yeah.
the plant proteins. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gluten sensitive, so I don't do any gluten, and you know, it triggers inflammatory responses in my body. But and of course, so that just, you know, that creates creates a whole host of challenges when it comes to, you know, consuming food. And you know,
Right.
people always ask me, well, you're a chef, where would you eat in Bozeman? I'm like, well, I really. There's a lot of great restaurants in Bozeman, but I don't go out to eat very much because it's just it's too frustrating. It's too
Right.
difficult.
yeah, I think the part about that story that I love so much is that if we rely solely on what our doctors prescribe,
Well, Western medicine, number one, Sarah, Western medicine, and God bless them. I'm grateful for them, but they aren't trained in nutrition. They aren't trained to look at the human body from the perspective of what we can do on a preventative basis. It's a reactive mode of medicine. And, you know, that's what took me down the rabbit hole of holistic nutrition. And, you know, because I was working at a neuroscience facility when I started these studies, and we saw a definitive connection between, you know, Alzheimer's and dementia and some of these neurodegenerative diseases and meat or dairy or any of the inflammatory foods that now, conversely, there are many scientists and researchers that will say, well, we have great results with treating just keto. And I think each body is different. That's what it comes down to.
Right.
Every body is different
Well, the other thing
in some respects.
right. I think the other thing we find too is that a lot of the research is maybe paid for by
Exactly.
the food industry.
For sure.
And so, you know, when you start thinking about that, you know, the results might already be determined. And it's kind of a sad state
Well,
we're in.
they want to find a certain result. And
Right.
so it's like, we want you to show that this is an effect and a cause and effect of a specific type of
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we keep going all around things, but back to your mother, like you said, the doctors were kind of surprised. You saw almost a change in 2 weeks. And what was like her reaction, your mom's reaction and yours?
Well, the coolest thing was, you know, like I said, the psoriatic arthritis was remediated as well. There were a whole host of things that were really affected profoundly in her body, and she was able to have a return to a better semblance of health by eliminating animal products. And so, and fortunately, and that's easy to do when you've got somebody that really loves vegetables anyway. And she was an amazing salad eater and loved her veggies, and so that made it easy.
Yeah.
And but the she's like, oh, I would just give anything for a pork chop. But remember what you feel like when you eat that, and remember what that does to your body.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember, that when you wake up the next morning, you can't bend your fingers, and you can't stand up, and you can't do all these things. So let's remember the why behind this. And everybody has a different why,
Yeah.
Everybody's why is going to be different. Mine was my mom, and it was making sure that we could return her to a semblance of health before she passed at 89. And so for, 8 years, she had, she was able to go meet with her gambling buddies and play nickel keno and, drive herself even.
Wow. It just makes me smile what a gift you gave your mom.
Totally.
On so many levels. And
and she was such a game dame, a game
Right.
dame to do it, to really, to embrace it and say, yeah, let's do this,
Commit to it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I feel like that is interesting in the sense that, you made this change for your mom. You had the skills, you had the knowledge to do it.
Sure.
Whereas a lot of people might not have. They might have felt powerless to make a
sure.
change and be I don't know, beholden to the industry, the medical
Sure.
industry, the food industry. But for you then, like the fact that can you just talk about that a little bit, the determination you had? I mean, obviously you knew it because you're an executive chef. You know how to do things, but the fact that we've all here tasted your cheeses, they're amazing, and I'm one of your biggest fans. So, how was that? I mean, walk us through that whole process, like how you had the determination to do it, and then where you the cheeses, your products for your mom, even, but also
the cheeses are pretty recent, and I went, after my mom passed away. 9 years ago, I was just, I was still working in restaurants and still doing my thing as a chef. And when I decided that I was going to be done with restaurant work, let's see, that would have been like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. That was when I was really I was looking for something that would be fulfilling, that would use my skill set. And I had been through the training to become a health coach, and I had been through all these things, and I was in school, and but I thought, well, what can I do using my skill set that would not only manage to my bills and feed me, not only spiritually but physically as well.
Right.
And so, the biggest thing I found was that there was a huge gap in the market, and that sounds really commercial and really diabolical, but there is a huge gap in the market when it comes to good quality substitute cheese.
right.
There's a huge gap, and I wasn't happy with it, and that was pretty much my biggest impetus, was the fact that I just couldn't stomach the stuff that's on the market.
Right. Like the plant-based stuff. Yeah. And so what about that? Talk about those iterations from like when you first tried to make one to where we are today. Can you talk about that?
I may be a chef, but just like anybody else, I have to work through all those hiccups, and the first few batches, they were horrible. I'm not going to lie. They were horrible. But what I've learned, it's a lot about the fermentation process. And that's what creates the nuances in the cheese, most specifically.
Nice.
And it also adds health benefits to the cheese. You know, the fermentation process adds tremendous health benefits, you know, and I add in probiotics on the third day.
I was wondering why I've been feeling better.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I'm just here to help your gut microbiome, honey.
That's awesome.
You know, and so it definitely wasn't without its challenges. It is science. It's molecular gastronomy, because I use alternative thickeners. Some people will be really, you know, they aren't very happy with that, and I'm actually doing a deep dive right now into a whole nother methodology of creating the cheese, but it would be very labor intensive and very time consuming because it takes years,
right?
And it's just aging, you know, producing the cheese product that doesn't have any of the extra stuff that I put in it currently, like no nooch, no this, that, or the other thing. And it's just in the aging process that it picks up its nuances.
Wow. Kind of like oak barrels and wine, right?
Well, kind of like that, but more like the way that cheese is actually produced in the regular world.
Interesting.
So, it's I don't know if I'm going to be able to achieve that. It would require me to have a cheese cave and all kinds of things that I'm not sure if I want to dive that deep.
Right.
I find that very interesting because I really thought that this was only for like animal dairy, that you would ferment it. Like for some reason, I had this idea that for plant-based plant-based cheese or fermentation, it's an entirely different process than for animal.
It's really amazing that you can actually use a similar process, Lucy. Yeah. It's like, you know, it goes through the fermentation process that I already put it through, and then it's strained out. But so there's no agar put in. There's none of the extra stuff, and so it's strained and it's put into on bamboo mats, and because bamboo is antimicrobial. And then it's stored in a humectant, refrigerated, whatever. I use wine coolers.
Wow.
Some people use caves and or refrigerators, and it has to be turned every day.
Oh.
Every day. And so, like, when I make the camembert and when I make the blue, those cheeses take 7 weeks. And that's why you don't find them at the market very frequently with me, because it takes so long, and I haven't quite figured out.
Still, so it's
but they're inoculated with Penicillium roqueforti and Penicillium candidum, and so in order to get those dynamics in the cheese. But those ones are really clean, and I say clean in the sense that they have salt and the cashews, they have the probiotics, they have the yeasts, and that's pretty much it. So
that's amazing. See, and that's a question I want to ask, like, because you have some familiarity with, like you said, making those burgers earlier in your cheeses. I mean, because I think the fewer ingredients, the better, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the goal that I'm trying to work toward, is to get it to the point where, you know, a lot of my cheeses have a lot of ingredients.
Right. And so what's interesting.
They're good ingredients.
No, of course.
Good. What's the problem?
True that.
Not a problem for us, but I think one of the arguments I run into, I work in a blue collar industry, and a lot of hunters, a lot of Montanans, you know, and you know, I've made one of the things I do, in, you want to call it activism or what, I make these little vegan breakfast sandwiches, and they're made with Beyond Beef sausage, and they're made with
fantastic.
They taste amazing, and also Just Egg, and then I also use like
Just Egg is awesome.
Yeah, and I use one of the whatever the mayonnaise, the Chipotle mayonnaise. Anyway, when I make them, sometimes the comments I get are like, oh, well, who knows what's in this? Like, you know, like they think a lot of vegan food, a lot of the processed vegan food is just a bunch of crazy chemicals, and they're not concerned about what's in their beef necessarily.
Right.
And so I don't know if you could speak to that a little bit. I know the beef is full of antibiotics, and I know that's probably a whole nother conversation.
Well, and I think that, again, that varies from grower to grower. I think that we have some ranchers and some growers here in this area that are exceptional. And they're really working hard to keep their practices really clean and take really good care of their animals and as much as that can be.
Right. Of course.
That's a dicey subject in beef country, I think.
Oh, I think so.
That's a dicey subject in beef country.
It's an interesting thing because I feel like a lot of, obviously everybody everybody who's eating meat, for example, would be concerned about like how clean it is, right? But I feel like it's interesting to see how if you go for like the cleanest you can do, like not injecting hormones or antibiotics or whatever,
and grass
in your
fed
animal,
and the grass is
still,
not treated.
Exactly. There's still like hormones, natural hormones that happen in the body kind of thing. And I feel like people kind of forget about just if you go for like, even if you hunt an animal, there's still going to be something inherent in this meat that's going to interact with your body in a way that might be interesting to be concerned, like, something to be concerned about.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think my whole argument, or the argument that I hear, is like, you and your vegan burgers are just full of a bunch of chemicals. You know what I mean? And they don't really realize it's actually, it is plant-based, pea proteins and lentils and these kinds of things. And just because there might be things to keep it all together, it's not necessarily, like we said, bad for you. But
yeah, I think it's truth be told, if you're just stepping into the vegan lifestyle, I think that one of the most important things to know, and I think this is true in life, is if you're making changes, make small changes. Start small. You don't have to go, 100% into down the rabbit hole right from the get-go. Make it sustainable, make it possible. Make it applicable in your life.
Well, that's it though. That concept of possible. You made it possible for your mom.
Yeah.
And now you're making it possible for us. We're getting this locally sourced vegan cheese that's amazing.
Right.
And it's like one of the best parts of going to the farmer's market is coming to your booth. And
I wish there was a way for me to input more of the amazing products that we can find around the valley that people are growing. And of course I use sporadics mushrooms and I use as much as I can that's local, but basil growers and those kinds of things for the pesto and of course in and around my property at my home is where I source like all the rocket and for the pesto and
nice. Your pesto is amazing too, by the way. And I feel like if anyone listening were to try your pesto, I don't think you would know it was vegan. No. It's amazing.
Yeah, the
kids eat it at school and they don't ever know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they don't know that it doesn't have nuts in it. It doesn't.
Wow.
So, I made it so that it could be one of those things that was really, truly allergen free.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's really clean. It's just got the greens and the greens change seasonally from what's available.
Right.
So coming up, I just was watching my dandelion garden and
I love dandelions.Ey're good for your liver.
They're really good.
I can't wait till they start sprouting. I'm going to make a dandelion salad.
Yeah,
they go everywhere.
And they're great sautéed.
Oh, nice.
And the root, of course, is really beneficial for your liver. You can dry the root and grind it up into your teas.
Oh.
Or chop it up and dehydrate it and put it in your teas. It's super beneficial.
Huh. A question I had earlier. I know we're going all over the place but one question I had is like we're talking about, I don't know the history. I don't know if you can speak to this. The gluten, like it is the result of hybrid wheat, right? I thought, it's not.
The gluten is the protein component in wheat.
Okay,
it's the component in the wheat that makes it's the glue.
Okay,
that's glue.
But to the ancient grains, like because now we're seeing a return to ancient grains, einkorn and emmer and kamut. They still have some gluten.
Yeah, they do. Okay. I think that the supposition there is, and I may be way off base. I because I've been gluten free for quite a while.
Okay.
But I believe that the supposition is that they're so ancient that the tolerance capabilities are higher for those kinds of grains.
Okay.
That's I think Don't quote me on that.
No, I was curious
But
too.
that's my
Okay.
estimation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really love that you mentioned that earlier in the conversation that our medical doctors really haven't been trained in nutrition, and so when they're looking at a patient and with presenting with a disease or conditions, like for example like your mom,
Oh, they treated her with all kinds of stuff.
like one of the diet is never really something that comes up. Like, oh, well, maybe if you took this out of your diet or added more of this in your diet, like it's just not in their wheelhouse. And so I'm really curious about your master's that you mentioned in holistic nutrition. Where are you getting that from? And
So I'm studying at a place called American College for Healthcare Sciences, and it's a college based in Portland.
okay.
And they offer this holistic nutrition degree, and it's different than a regular nutrition degree because it's holistic, and they really it's really cool. It was started by a woman from New Zealand in 1978, and then she moved it to the mainland here in I think it was 90 something.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's been in Portland for a while. And it's a great school, really great school. I've been really blessed to be attending there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You have such a rich, professional, like broad, like background.
Well, what do you do? So, when I quit cooking professionally in restaurants, I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach culinary. The university here and their culinary program were not interested in hiring me because I lack a degree in education.
Wow. That's crazy.
And I my response to that was, and 43 years doesn't stand for anything?
Exactly.
Really?
No, but that's the whole point isn't the whole point of college to get yourself a job where you can be a productive member of society?
I mean, I'm degreed as a chef.
Okay.
I'm degreed as a chef.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I was like, oh, well, okay, I'm going to pivot and go this way. Still using the skill set that I have and the love that I have for food and for creating food that feeds us on more than just a physical level.
Right. And now you're an artisan of plant-based cheeses. I mean, that's crazy.
And donuts, dude.
Donuts. We got to
Don't
talk.
forget the donuts.
I know. We were not going to forget about the donuts. All right. We're saving the best for last. But
Don't forget the donuts. Oh my
I
God.
wanted to mention this. I feel like businesses like you, especially local businesses, are so crucial to actually help like kind of the vegan movement advance and just people be more open to plant-based foods and kind of, it gives this richness to the plant-based foods that are available around us. And it makes our lives just so much richer. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you
You're welcome.
figuring this thing out with the
thing.
vegan cheese, because
Yeah.
it makes everything easier for everyone, I think.
absolutely.
I hope so.
And it's such a wonderful message that so many people still believe that you have to eat animals and you have to eat animal products to be healthy.
Right.
And this message is, no, actually taking those out of your diet is going to bring more health, and your body wants to heal itself if you just give it that opportunity with plants.
Well, and that's a question I kind of want to return to too. Like you'd mentioned, inflammation, eating animal proteins, and again, I know I'm familiar with the documentary What the Health, and I think in that documentary they have this segment where somebody's actually eating a hamburger and they're monitoring their blood almost like live as they're eating it, and the acidic content of their blood goes up, and we know that if your pH is out of balance, that leads to certain inflammations. And I know cancer, as I understand it, loves to thrive in a very acidic environment. And so I'm just wondering, can you speak to any of that at all? If not, that's fine. And I can.
I mean, so here's what I would say to this, and I love what it is that you stand for, and I will say this, that there are bodies that do thrive with meat, and there's a young woman who is an advocate for this thing called the lion diet, and she tried every other kind of diet, and then she was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So I think, and I think that it's important that we recognize our individuality. I think it's important that we also recognize our choice, and what is the purpose? What is our why behind our choice? You know, some people are plant-based because it's an animal thing. Some people are plant-based because it's a health thing. Some people are plant-based because it's a combination. I think that there is a great benefit, and I think most of the science behind health and inflammation and chronic disease is now starting to recognize that if you are going to consume animal flesh, it needs to be on a much smaller scale. It doesn't need to be as regular as people think. It needs to be that our plates look like 55 or 60% plant products and very little animal, if any at all. And I mean, I think that we need to recognize that, you know, plant-based isn't for everybody, but there are definitive health benefits for it.
Right.
And even if you're struggling with these things, I would challenge you to take out a percentage of meat, to take out a percentage of dairy, and start replacing it with not necessarily mass-produced product, but whole food, vegetables, grains, legumes, anything that is going to increase your microbiome capacity to process in a healthy manner. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
It's really comes down to the gut.
Right.
But again, like I said, I do believe, you know, animal products aren't for me, but everybody has to make a choice, and it's an individual thing.
Right.
But there are definite scientific benefits to having more plants in your diet.
Yeah.
If you or completely plant based,
Right.
as in my case, your case,
Yeah.
all of our cases.
No, totally, and I agree with you that it is a holistic thing. That's how we try to look at it, and you know, it's not just for us. I mean, we try to make the argument that it is an ethic. It is it's also natural resources and climate change, and we try to connect all the dots. And I think it does seem like a good plant-based diet. It does a lot for, you know, I mean, we've had conversations about just water usage for, like, as an example, we always hear things like one hamburger is like 600 gallons of water, or like one T-bone steak is like 1,200 gallons of water. I mean, just the amount of water that animals use, and the amount of resources that, you know, we talk about. A lot of times we hear comments about food deserts or food poverty, and yet the majority of plant agriculture is fed to animals. Right. And so I think, you know, if we care about climate change and we care about the planet, you know, the ecological resource usage, these kinds of things, you know, it is a good choice. Plant-based living is a good choice, among other things, the medical, everything.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, to keep that in as much as we can in a local circle, as far as where we are able to, as you said, though, there are deserts. I'm firmly aware of that. But to keep our consumption, and now I know that I'm opening myself up here to all kinds of stuff, because cashews can't be grown in our climate. You know, it's a huge footprint. Yeah, and that's the reason why I'm looking at a more sustainable, you know, with the sunflower line. And I recognize that. And cashews are really the best nut to make cheese from. Right.
But the only thing I'll say too is, like, you know, because I know there was a big thing about almonds, right? Almonds. And I forget the actual numbers. There's a high water content.
80 gallons.
80 gallons. But for animals, it's much greater.
Yes.
And so I guess I'm thinking, like, you know, in a perfect world, I mean, cashews, almonds, they're still way better than eating pork or, you know, bacon or burgers or dairy.
Like also like studies that show that, you know, transportation of foods is actually less important in terms of sustainability than the actual, like, the type of food you're eating. Like, which food is it? Because the different foods use very different amounts of land use or water or things like that. So it's also a very
Yeah, go ahead.
intricate.
Oh, I'm really glad you brought up, because we talked about the reasons people become vegan, which is health or the animal ethics or the environment. Because I didn't want to forget that to mention that. So we Vegans of Bozeman had a table at the Emerson Earth Day event, and I just wanted to make sure that we thank Peg for
thanks.
because she had arranged with Lucy to donate some of her products, her fromage cheeses, to our table. And I was just picturing it was going to be a few items and some crackers, and her assistant comes in with this yardstick long charcuterie board that was just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It was amazing. And it was just this magnet that just drew people. People were like, "What is that? Is that free? Can I have some of that?" And then they would stay and talk with us. And
Awesome.
Because
That's great.
I think that it is controversial to have a table that says, meat is not green, and if you care about the environment, consider veganism. A lot of people did just kind of look at our signage and walk away, but I think we got a so much better response because we had this beautiful food for people to come and taste.
Right.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And that is, and it was very forward thinking of you all to get some of the local product that you could, to show people that, look, you can eat really, really well.
Right.
Really, really well. And what that looks like.
Exactly. And that's it. I mean, and to me, that's good activism, right? Hey, we can make arguments all day, but here, try this.
Yeah.
The practical, the possible.
Exactly.
And when people try it, because I get questions all the time, like, what do you eat? What do you eat? We had a whole show on it. Like, what do you eat?
Yeah.
And jokes, about what I might eat.
Right.
But this, you give people, try this. This is cheese.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of the stuff we give people that's vegan, they can't believe it's vegan.
Right.
Well,
I think I had that happen today at the market. I was handing away samples of the cheesy buffalo chicken dip, which is the new one of the new things, and also the queso blanco. And they're like, "This really isn't cheese." No, it's not cheese, you goober.
but see, then for me, what happens at work? They're like, "Well, then what is it?" Do you know what I mean?
It's cashews, man. It's cashews and water, man, and green chilies, and
it's amazing.
good stuff.
We just had some before we started this whole segment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's that's the best thing that you can do and that's the best thing that I can think of doing is just getting product in people's mouth.
Yeah.
Because once they taste it and they taste the possibilities,
right.
That's what it's about,
That's
is
what it
tasting
is.
the possibilities.
Very important. Yeah.
And I think that is huge. And even with respect to consuming more vegetables, people think, well, vegetables are boring.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, you know what you can do with this chimichurri sauce that I make? You can slice a cauliflower head and grill it and put the chimichurri sauce on it, and you are going to be blown away. And they're like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's all about the way you cook it. Yeah.
I would
It
agree with that.
is.
I've eaten a ton of that stuff, and it's amazing. So yeah.
I mean, it's all of those things, and so that's going to be kind of the next step in my journey is not only the building of another line that would be a little closer to home, a little bit more sustainable, and it won't supplant the existing line at all. It'll just be an additional line, but definitely something that is a little bit got a smaller footprint and globally, and hopefully I can make it taste as good. I don't know.
I'm sure.
We trust you.
No, but I just want to read your mission statement online. It says, this is Fauxmage. It says, we thrive on building lasting relationships within the community. We strive to produce a local, sustainable product using socially and environmental practices that exemplify the passion and craftsmanship we bring to all our products. Mm-hmm. And I think that's amazing. I mean, because you're actually doing it. And you're here on our show right now, part of the Bozeman community.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. No, but you are doing it. And the idea, though, that you are doing this, but you still have this ethic involved, sustainability.
For sure.
You're concerned about the environment. You're concerned about all these things. We've just been talking about your footprint. And I mean...
and constantly improving the product and curious about how we can make it even better.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's huge. that's a huge part of doing business, I think, and being an entrepreneur is to never stop challenging yourself to do better. And always challenge yourself to think outside the box. I mean, widen your scope. And that applies in all manners in all facets of life, I think. And especially with regard to food and considering plant-based. And, maybe people start with meatless Mondays. Maybe they start with, and build it from there. But I would just encourage people who are listening, if they've ever considered embracing a plant-based lifestyle, don't be afraid to just start small.
Right.
Even if it's, 1 day a week, and then you build it to 2%, because that 1%, that 1% of change adds up over a year,
Right.
and it's huge.
No,
It's
totally. I know there's a book out there like that. Like, just make a
1%
small
habit
1%. Yeah. Or something like the
Yeah.
360 edge, where it's like
Yeah.
even a fraction of a percent.
Yeah.
Just every day, just make a little change. And then in, 6 months, you've made 30% change or something.
Exactly.
So, just before we end, we got to talk about the donuts. Like what?
Donuts.
What? So
Let's not miss the donuts.
Fauxmage makes vegan donuts at the farmers market. So let's just
so
talk about
yummy.
what was the conception for that? What were you thinking? Because I know you make baked products sometimes.
I do make baked products in the summertime, mostly for summer markets, and sometimes for the holiday markets. Just because you guys might find this shocking, but I get bored just making cheese. I get bored.
You get more different stuff.
I get bored.
Wow.
I just need to challenge myself. And so my marketing mistress, Rebecca, God bless her,
Yes.
she challenges me constantly. And when she took over all of my media, she said, what do you suppose people are really wanting out there? What do you think? What's your next step? And I said, well, I don't know. She said, well, let's put a survey out. So we did put a survey out, and donuts was one of the things that came back. And I said, well, I can do that. And I didn't realize I was going to create such a monster, honestly.
Well, that's it. I mean, honestly, I know I see your advertisements on social media. I follow you. Like what? I keep wondering, you have to hire somebody to help you like maintain the demand for these donuts.
Yeah,
and
I
other products.
might have to, because I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
I just turned 59, for crepe's sakes.
You look great.
Thanks.
See,
See, plant-based living.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Plant-based living.
Well, they say vegan 60 is a new 30.
Yeah, I love that. Good. I'm gonna have a T-shirt made for next year, because I turn 60 next year.
There you go.
A vegan 60 is the new 30. I love it. That's damn fine.
Well, I think you look amazing.
Well,
so,
thanks.
yeah.
Thanks. It's really a fun journey, and I don't know what's next. I just don't. But I know that summer markets are going to be starting up soon, and I'll be at Saturday markets every week, and I'll be at Tuesday night markets every week. So, sadly, we had to let go of the 406 marketplace.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, and that was due to some health department concerns that they didn't feel that the 406 marketplace was a true farmer's market. And so
It was nice though. It was nice while it
nice.
lasted, because if
Yeah.
you didn't make it to the farmer's market, you could run over there and
Exactly.
get your
Fauxmage fix.
Get your Fauxmage fix. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
it was great.
Well, the next steps for me will actually be getting Fauxmage to the point where it can actually be in stores.
Nice.
Exciting. Yeah.
Any in mind that you can talk about or no?
Joe's Parkway for sure.
Okay.
Joe's Parkway for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, I think the Town and Country food stores
I was going to say Town and
will be
Country.
taking it.
Yeah.
Local. I want to keep it local.
Yeah.
I really want to keep it local. I think that it was my local community that supported me and has nurtured me through this process
Right.
of building this business. And so I want to give back in return.
No, it's great. It's
So,
great what you've built. It's amazing.
If people can offer an elevated product in their store for plant-based people, then I think that's kudos to them.
Right. Well, we were talking about that too. We kind of like the new Whole Foods has a lot of vegan options. And so,
But not cheese.
No,
Not cheese.
But no, I know.
Well,
I was
that's so cute.
astonished. I was astonished. Let's just talk about that,
Sure, yeah,
because
let's do it.
I went in there and went right to the cheese section, and I went, "What?"
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you are the one who's
They're waiting for you.
I
They're
was
waiting for you.
shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Truly shocked.
Yeah, it is.
They didn't even have Wayfair there,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is like an an epic local plant-based product.
Totally. Yep.
I was just appalled.
Yeah. Well,
But
Gotta remedy that.
yeah, you gotta
right?
do something about that.
and the folks at Wayfair are great. You know, they've
Right.
been really supportive, and they're amazing,
Yeah.
Cool.
and really willing to answer questions when I've reached out.
That's awesome.
You know, because the next steps, you know, to scale this up, it's big stuff. It's big stuff. It's big equipment, and I'm not sure if I really want to go there, but we might need to.
Yeah, I mean that's how it seems to me. It seems like I just know I've known of Fauxmage for maybe a little over
3
a year,
years.
3 years. Yeah, you've been around for 3 years, but
Yeah.
I discovered you maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And
Talking outside of my house after you
Yes.
delivered a product.
right, I was gonna say that I was your UPS driver for a long time.
You were.
and I do remember delivering boxes of cashews
Yes, exactly.
and how heavy they are.
And how heavy they are. I know.
Participated.
I schlepped them.
Right. That's funny.
It's true.
You made
So-
it possible.
You did.
That was part
you
of the
were part of the
process.
process.
Woo! That's awesome.
Part of the
So,
Fauxmage story.
There we go.
Thank you,
Yeah.
UPS.
When you write your book, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's
so
funny.
maybe we should get your information so that people can discover you more, like your website, etc. Where they can find you.
www.fauxmage.co.
.co.
Not com.
Nice.
Yeah. So when people are looking, and they put in com, they won't find me. But they can pretty much always find me if they just start putting in Fauxmage.
Fauxmage. And yeah, you're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Facebook.
I am not on TikTok yet.
Well,
And that's supposed to be going away because
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
I heard that our illustrious governor has outlawed it in Montana.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
First of the year.
wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I know. Enjoy your TikTok, people,
There
while
you
you
go.
can.
wow.
And also just farmers market. If you
Have-
want to,
Yeah,
if you
come
wanna
see me at
see-
Farmers Market. I'm there every Saturday, and I will tell you, Saturday market starts June 17th.
nice.
Mark your calendars, and then Tuesday night market starts that following Tuesday on the 21st.
And the Tuesday night one is at Lindley Park still?
It is at Lindley Park still,
And the
and it
Saturday,
runs from 5 to 8.
5 to 8 on Tuesday evening. And then the
Saturday morning market is at the fairgrounds in Haynes Pavilion, and outside of Haynes Pavilion as well, and it runs 9 to noon.
Good, perfect.
Yeah. And it's looking like it's going to be a huge year, people.
Oh,
So
yeah.
come support your local growers and farmers and producers. And
Absolutely. And we should say today we went to the farmers market and we grabbed a bunch of things and we kind of made a nice vegan lunch
you
from
made
just
a
the farmers market.
smorgasbord.
Yeah, we did.
You did.
Yeah.
It looked
So,
beautiful.
Yeah, we love the farmers market.
Yeah.
And like I said,
How was your French toast?
It was good, but it didn't have any ingredients from the farmer's market, which is
That's
probably
okay.
the flaw.
That's
it's still
okay.
amazing.
That's okay.
So,
That's good. It still works. Yeah.
Well,
It
but
still
the
works.
salad you made with the cheese, like
Oh, yeah.
Peg's cheese, yeah, it was freaking
I
fantastic.
still need to
Yeah.
try it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. But Chef Peg, thank you for joining us
Oh,
today.
it's been my pleasure.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having me on.
I
Very
hope you come
inspiring.
back.
I will love to do that.
That's awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks.
One of my favorite food artisans in Bozeman. So, all right. Till next time.
See you at the market.
See you. All right. Hey, that was a great interview with Peg Schaefer of Fauxmage, a local plant-based artisan in Bozeman. And such a great conversation, a lot there. And obviously Peg has a lot of experience as an executive chef in the area. And what are some takeaways of that great interview?
I mean, she has such an open, generous heart. To even be here with us is just
Right.
one more example. Like every time I have a conversation with her or have any interaction with her, I'm just struck by how giving, and I mean, she's just a beautiful person.
Right.
So
She's very generous.
And yeah, businesses like her are so crucial to the vegan movement, even if they might not have a vegan goal in mind.
Right.
They're so crucial to helping animals, planet, and human health as well. So we're so grateful for you.
Right.
Peg.
No, and I agree with you too, right? That even for people who might be plant-based, and I know we talked about that one time in one of our shows, plant-based versus vegan, and that whole ethic, what a vegan ethic is. But yeah, you have people who they might be plant-based for their health, but even with that, they are still helping the vegan cause, and they are eliminating suffering. And I feel like Peg is doing that, even if it might not be her primary goal. She's still contributing to the solution?
I'm an ethical vegan. I do this for the animals mainly, and also, of course, for the environment, my health.
Right.
What did you guys think about this whole like kind of idea of like, well, it's a personal choice, to be vegan or not, right? And to what you eat is, I mean, it's obvious. It's a choice, right?
Right.
My take on that I would like to share is I see it as like I have the choice, I have the freedom to do many things, right? And so I want to reduce my impact sustainably and also for the environment in a way that reduces suffering and also reduces the amount of animals that suffer because of my needs.
Right.
And so that's why, to me, a personal choice has to also account. It has to account for the lives that are, taken for this person's needs, etc. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think that a lot of us do begin our vegan journey partly because we really want to be physically the healthiest people we can be, and so a lot of times we kind of find our way to veganism for health reasons. It's partly true for me, for sure, but I think that when you expose yourself to, the stuff that the animal agriculture industries do not want us to expose ourselves to, which is how these animals are treated. The more you expose yourself to that, you cannot unsee it. Like so many people say with things, you cannot forget that. You can't, and that becomes just paramount in terms of why am I doing this? Health is a great way to get into it, and it's always, I still care about my health a lot, and I still believe that being a vegan is best for my health. But what gets me going, what gets me excited to talk to people about veganism or whatever is, I think about, we can do better as a species. We can do better for this planet. We could do better for the animals we share this planet with. We don't need to be treating them this way. And so therefore, since it's not necessary, it's not acceptable anymore. And so,
it's not necessary for survival.
Exactly.
So,
we can
to thrive. Exactly.
Right. And I think too, like I heard what she was saying, and I understand that people are different health-wise. And I think a lot of that has to do with environmental factors that all of us are not aware of necessarily. But I think what I want to say is that, somebody might be, like she was saying, somebody might be able to eat meat and they can handle it. But of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking for how long? Mm-hmm. Like eventually there are going to be consequences to that kind of diet for everyone.
And it's also, there is such a thing as, different hierarchies, of evidence. There's anecdotes of people thriving on a plant-based diet, and there's anecdotes of people thriving on they report that they thrive on a carnivorous diet, for example. And then, since we have of both, we need to kind of see whether studies, peer-reviewed studies align with that. Because if we don't really, we just have to, kind of get our word for it, which is not necessarily, always helpful. So it's also something to talk about.
I mean, I think her ethic that she did share with us, which I think is in some ways right in line with what we're talking about, is, she's a curious person. And I think she said, with being an entrepreneur or in any aspect of life, the idea of always being curious, always thinking outside the box, always thinking, how could I do better? And I think that goes hand in hand with being an ethical vegan. Is the more you learn, the more you realize you can do better.
Right. And the thing is, she's getting it done. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
She's getting it done. She's contributing to the cause for various reasons, and she's actually doing it. And I mean, she's using her skills and she's magnifying her skills. And
we love her for it.
No, and she's helping all of us. And it's amazing. She's an inspiration. We love Peg Schaefer. And thank you, Peg, so much being a part of our show today.
Yeah.
Really love that.
And also, I'd like to add something something we care about as ethical vegans is not only the suffering that animals experience or other earthlings, but it's also the fact that to get these products from to get their skin, to get their secretions, their flesh, we need to use them in a way. We need to commodify them. We need to exploit them. And that's really something that as vegans, ethical vegans are against. And that's a big reason of why I care about, kind of talking about these things. And
right.
Yeah, it's something we didn't really have much time to ask her perspective about, unfortunately.
Right. Well, that is the beauty of our show, is that we can continue to have these conversations, and we continue to grow. We can continue to use our voices for the animals in good ways. So until next time, this is the Vegans of Bozeman on KGVM, and we will talk to you again.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.